Have you ever said or did something where you know you messed up? So you're in a situation or a circumstance and you said something and you messed it all up. Or maybe some time has passed in that and you're driving on along and then suddenly, boom, you just automatically feel so disappointed. You feel so just discouraged, pain and anger because of that situation that you messed up. And after all of that is said and done, you just look at yourself and wondering, how did I get here? What do I do? How do I move forward? Well, I'm going to go to the Bible for that. I'm going to tell you about one of Jesus' 12 disciples, Peter. That's right, Peter, the one who Jesus built his church upon. Peter, the one who dropped everything and followed Jesus. Peter, the one who stepped out of a boat towards Jesus. He's also Peter, the one who denied Jesus. See, leading up to Jesus' death and resurrection, we can read in Matthew 26 that after the Last Supper, after Jesus tells Judas that he's going to betray him, they go to the Mount of Olives. And Matthew 26, verse 31 goes like this. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Okay, Peter, we see you. We get it. You're trying to step out in a major way, trying to prove Jesus wrong. I mean, he was the one that just told Judas that he was going to betray him. Well, shortly after that, Jesus is betrayed, he's arrested, and he's on trial. We see later in Matthew 26, it says that Peter followed him at a distance and into the courtyard of the high priest, where Jesus' clothes were torn. He was spit on, he was beaten. And the priests, they were calling for his death. Matthew 26, verse 69 says, Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and the servant girl came to him. You were with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, and then he went out to the gateway where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." Man, I'm telling you, Peter could not escape these servant girls. They were on it that night. He denied it again with an oath. He said, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately, a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the words Jesus spoken. "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Shortly after that, Jesus was crucified. Can you imagine what Peter felt? The weight of denying Jesus and then the crucifixion. He had to be crushed. See, Peter thought that he could step up in that moment. All he did was mess up. We see after Jesus' resurrection from the grave that he appeared to his disciples again at the Sea of Galilee, while Peter and the other disciples were fishing. So Jesus appears while they're fishing. They went back to life and just went fishing. Have you ever messed up in a situation and then all of a sudden you're around that person that you messed up? They know you messed up. You know you messed up. So you're awkwardly trying to avoid them, trying to avoid that situation. You don't know what to do, but there's this big elephant in the room. The thing about it is Jesus responds to that elephant. And the way that he addressed it is with love. We see in John 21, verse 15, he says, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." In that moment, Jesus used Peter's denial to encourage him and empower him to move forward. I can only imagine that every time Peter heard the rooster crow moving forward, that he was reminded that he denied Jesus. But also he was reminded of Jesus' grace and love and truth and his calling for his life. So my question here tonight is, what is your rooster's crow? What is the thing that reminds you of your shortcomings, your failures in life? But what is also your reminder of God's love and truth? To see past those failures into his kingdom, into his righteousness. Don't drown out the rooster's crow. I say step into it, lean into it. Press into what God has called you to. We see later on in the Bible that God uses Peter to do major things, to spreading the gospel and the foundation of the church. Just imagine if every time Peter heard the rooster's crow, he was paralyzed and did not go forward. There's a quote by Edwin Lewis Cole that says, "You don't drown by falling into the water. You drown by staying in it." So I encourage you tonight, hear the rooster's crow. Recognize your depravity, where you sin, where you messed up at. But surrender that and be restored through Jesus Christ into God's love, truth, and his truth. And stand firmly and step into what God has called you into your life.